Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 109 of the All Dolphins podcast. And for number 9, Omar can only be Noah Benagany, right? No. I like Noah, but he wouldn't be the player I would recognize for that number, or we would recognize. It's going to be Jay Fiedler, who was the Dolphins starting quarterback from 2000 through 2004, wound up with a very good one-loss record. If you're one of those people who believe in the validity of the one-loss record as a great indicator of what kind of quarterback you are.
It's not great. Don't do me like that.
That what's not great.
It's not a great indicator of the
Oh, okay,
quarterback.
good. Okay, good. I'm glad you agree. I'm glad we agree.
Stop telling lies on me.
The liar and the lies they lie. Jay Fiedler was signed as an unrestricted free agent from the Jacksonville Jaguars
After he whooped up on Dan Marino in a playoff game.
after he came off the bench to mop up the 62-7 playoff
You can
win.
say whoop up.
I said mop up, whoop up. Yeah, no, they whooped up. It wasn't him who whooped him up. It was Mark Brunell and Fred Taylor and all those guys. And then Jay Fiedler came in and closed it out. Had some good moments, had some not good moments. Was a quarterback when Dolphins won their last playoff game against the Colts in December of 2000.
All right, nobody's here to see Jay Fiedler. We want to cry and whine and wallow in our sorrows.
Okay, one last thing though before we move on to, I guess we're going to maybe talk about Tyreek Hill, I would imagine. Because somebody asked me on the mailbag about Noah Benagany and what kind of playing time he's getting with the Cowboys. The answer is not very. In 6 games so far, he has played a grand total of 88 snaps, and I think 63 of those have come on special teams. So
I watched him play. I can't remember what nationally televised game because the Cowboys are always on TV. He cornerback got injured. He got in the game, and the opponent roasted him on the very first play of scrimmage. He's still being attacked. Noah, I like him in theory. Just the player, ball awareness, recognition, just not there. So
nope.
I'm totally fine and comfortable with them moving on from him. And speaking of,
we would not be comfortable moving on from Tyreek Hill, not even for one game. And unfortunately, we are staring at the possibility now because, in case you haven't heard, Tyreek Hill did not practice Wednesday because of a hip injury, the origin of which, who knows, there were 3 injuries reported in the press box on Sunday. That was not one of them. It was David Long, Jalen Waddle, and Isaiah Wynn. So exactly when he got hurt, not sure.
Tyreek, it's just to sort of paint a picture for Dolphin fans. Tyreek usually shows up to practice late every day. Why? We have no idea. We don't ask questions as long as he produces. He could be getting taped. He can be getting stretched. He can be IVing. We have no idea, nor do we ever care to ask, just because Tyreek is such a productive player. Today, we're inside. No Tyreek. That's normal. We're outside for the first period. No Tyreek. That's normal. Occasionally he strolls out probably by the second period. And then we're getting to the third period. We're watching practice and there's no Tyreek. And there's a level of panic that hits the media contingent. And we double check with our media relations director. No Tyreek today. And she said that is correct. And shows up that he's got a hip injury that he's battling, nursing, probably getting treatment for. How much it'll limit him this week, if not hold him out of a game, we don't know. Let's just hope that this is soreness and not anything serious, because as Tyreek says all the time, and I hear it all the time because he says it to me all the time, cheaters don't get hurt.
Yeah, except here's the one worrisome note about this whole thing was Tua in his weekly media session on Wednesday was asked about Tyreek and what happens if you have to go out there on Sunday without him.
It was a little spicy.
Sorry?
He was a little spicy on it.
Well, in the course of his answer is when we get him back somewhere down the line with the quote, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, what? Somewhere down the line? That's a little ominous.
It is, but it sort of lends you to understand what is Mike McDaniel always talking about. It's
Let me
about
guess. Next man up.
no. Go try again. Next
Okay.
try. You know, the most important
Adversity
day.
becomes an opportunity or something like that.
Damn, you messed it up.
Did mess it up, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Adversity is
The most
opportunity.
important day is today.
Oh, okay.
No, not that one. It's we're trying to make sure that we've got everybody healthy and right for February, and or a long view as opposed to the short view of the season, making sure that guys are healthy for down the stretch, when this team and organization hopes to be peaking in November and December and January so that they can get to February. It would not shock me, and this is just a guess, because Tyreek could be out on that field and be bragging about how cheetahs don't get hurt tomorrow. But it would not shock me at this present moment, which is Wednesday at 6 o'clock, if Tyreek is held out of a game. Dare I say it? Just from a precautionary standpoint.
Well, yeah, if he's playing with something, absolutely. And like you mentioned, it goes with the same whole philosophy of think big picture and
Think
not
big.
just a week 8 game. But this is a guy whose game, dare I say it, is built on speed. Captain Obvious over here. And if you're dealing with a hip, this is where you knock on wood that it's not anything serious, because as you and I have discussed, the dude is unique. There's nobody like him in the NFL. He is easily the playmaker of this offense. Um, and it's not going to look the same without him.
Hey, but the show goes on. That's to a ton of
Well, yeah, if they don't have a choice, they don't have a choice. But this is where also, I mean, this injury report is like, it seemed early on where like some of the big pieces who were getting injured, although it wasn't that many, but it was on defense. Now they're having, it's like, oh, they can't keep guys healthy on offense. And we're dealing again now with Teron Armstead, who's eligible to come back next week. Connor Williams did practice today, albeit on a limited basis. Jalen Waddle with his back issue did practice, as Mike McDaniel said he would, on a limited basis.
He says it was just spasms.
Okay, good. That's Raheem Mostert did not practice with an ankle injury, which is something new, which is also something that was not among an injury report in the press box. Alec Ingold, sorry?
I said things happen, you know.
Except when you got speed guys who have their wheels.
Yeah, but I'm saying it doesn't have to be injury after the game. It can be accumulative things that just add up and accumulate. And Raheem Mostert misses most Wednesday practices.
He does, but usually it'll say vet rest. This time it says ankle. Obviously there was no. Sorry?
He's old. We both can relate to that.
Oh, yes, we can relate. Yes, absolutely, we can relate.
Yeah, the same when you get old.
No left guard. Obviously, Isaiah Wynn's on IR. Who else as I look at?
And don't just gloss over that. It sounded like Mike McDaniel not certain that he's coming back this season. It's going to be a longer time.
He's not coming back. The way he was talking about it, I mean, he's basically talking about, I don't want to rule him out, but he's facing a challenge. In parentheses, don't count on him. Fair?
Yeah, no. He's facing a challenge, and he doesn't want to rule him out. But it looks like it's going to be a longer road than expected. And then Rashad. I'm sorry, Rashad. I'm saying Rashad Jones. Yeah, I wish they had Rashad Jones.
You loved Rashad Jones.
Robert Jones was out with a personal reason. Saw him inside the locker room. Good thing it was an injury. But Lester Cotton is in there, and Lester Cotton looks like he's going to be the starting left guard, unless a certain former starting left guard regains his spot.
And it was interesting. Your good pal, your good buddy Joe Rose made a very good point this morning that if Connor Williams indeed is able to return to the lineup against the Patriots and the Dolphins don't put Liam Eichenberg at left guard as a starter, that basically tells you all you need to know about the Dolphins' feelings about Liam Eichenberg.
I don't think that's accurate. I think it tells you that the most important work, in my opinion, for Liam Eichenberg this week is to prepare as if he's going to start at center, because things can go haywire if Connor Williams doesn't start or regresses. Right now, let's just say it's even between Lester Cotton and Liam Eichenberg, which I don't assume it is. Let's just say it's even. Liam is still more valuable as a backup center than he would be as a starting left guard, in my opinion, from this standpoint. That game goes haywire if something happens to Connor.
Okay, and I will give you, if we were on I don't know what show that is, pardon the interruption. No, the show where they award points with the ringing of the bell.
Marcel's show.
Yeah,
around the horn.
That you would get a couple of dings here. That's a very good point. So let's amend that statement, which wasn't completely crazy. Let's amend the statement to say that once Connor is fully established as being back, and at that point, if Liam does not start at left guard, I think that tells you they see him as a backup offensive lineman. You're still not going there. Man, you're a tough sell.
To me, it comes down to who do you start the best five? And outside of Liam Eichenberg having to move in, I think the work at center is valuable. It's important. And if you don't get it, it can derail the season. You could have a practice squad player as your starter, but that's a little bit dangerous and risky. Not your starter, but your top backup. But that's a little bit dangerous and risky. I think Liam will have the opportunity to play both spots this week. I think it's more valuable that he plays center, but Lester Cotton has to redeem himself and have a get-right game for the bad performance that he put out against a very talented Philadelphia Eagles. And he thinks he can do better. He knows he can do better. And the coaches are confident that he can do better. So let's do that and then see where we are. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. But my point is, if we get to the point where Connor Williams goes through a full practice, getting all the first team reps as your starting center, I think at that point, to me, if you're still holding Liam in high regard as a former second round pick, I think you got to give him a look at left guard. And if you don't, that basically tells you you're completely satisfied and have established that he's your backup center and nothing more. Which could be perfectly fine. I mean,
I think we're the cart before the horse, and I think that we've seen progression from Liam as a center, and Connor Williams is an unrestricted free agent who's going to be looking to break the bank. Going to be probably $10 a year. You're capped out. You don't have the money.
You're having internet issues again today, my man.
No. Oh, really?
You're freezing a little bit, but it's nothing egregious, but enough that there will be comments about it.
My humble apologies. Disappearing, man. Is it still bad?
Okay, a little passive aggressive shot right there. Okay, fine. Disappearing shoulders. If you noticed, I don't have the issue anymore. It happened the one day, and I learned.
Yeah. Stop bragging.
Are we so sure that we're seeing significant progress from Liam? And I don't want to dump on the dude, but there were a couple of snapping issues. Number one, number two. You're going to be comfortable if Connor Williams moves on in free agency next offseason. I don't want to move away from the focus of this season, but you're going to be comfortable with Liam Eichenberg taking over as a starting center?
I'm not going to answer any of those questions. I'm gonna have to exert my right to plead the Fifth Amendment.
Okay, you're being nice. Okay, let's go back to Tyreek, because that's obviously the big major news. And I looked it up. The dude, since he's been in the NFL 2016, has played 115 of a possible 121 games. Missed one game in 2017 for personal reasons, missed 4 in 2019 because of a shoulder injury, and he missed the season finale in 2020 because of a hamstring injury. However, the Chiefs already had clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs, and chances are he might have played anyway. So the guy has been extraordinarily durable.
Cheetahs don't get hurt.
Cheetah don't get hurt. Correct. So I don't recall a time in the game. I mean, we have seen from time to time throughout the season where he looks like, I don't want to say gimpy, but it's usually dealing with like cramping issues and that's what it seems like, maybe like minor hammy stuff, but not the hip. I don't recall him being tackled to the ground where it would have been an awkward fall that would cause this kind of issue. I don't know if you did. Omar, are you there? Or are you freezing again?
I'm here.
Don't do that to me. Don't go like lost in thought and in deep thought here. And I'm thinking, oh no, he's freezing again.
No. Just from my history of covering receivers, sometimes the hip gets sore, sometimes all the constant, and they got to go into those pyrotherapy things, and they got to go into the ice packs and wear them on their legs, and sometimes it's just a matter of needing to wear legs, and then sometimes it's a matter of you're gonna have off-season hip surgery. I don't know what it is. I'm not even worried about it because last I checked, Tyreek was super fast, and hopefully we can continue to make sure he remains fast. Until I see what happens the rest of the week, I'm not overly panicking. And let me put it this way. I am not one of those individuals who thinks that this offense, which has been number 1 in the NFL for the majority of this, not all of the season, comes to a screeching halt because Hill is not there.
We have got you know what's going to be on the injury report is going to be your internet. Omar Kelly Internet Limited. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it really that bad?
It's dragging there on a pretty consistent basis.
Oh man. I talk less. Do you hear me?
Yeah, it kind of broken up. I'll take over for a second here while you see if you can fix something else. Where were we with Tyreek? I think you were about to say that you're not one of those who suggested the offense would. It's not going to. I mean, I think you can agree it doesn't look the same without Tyreek. The question is, I don't think, like as I've said with other players on this offense, it completely collapses. My concern right now is it's not just Tyreek. Again, it's Tyreek. You don't have. If Tyreek doesn't play, and again, we don't know the severity of the injury. Mike McDaniel's not talking tomorrow. He's talking Friday, at which time
Frank Smith is talking, so he's going to have to answer for his head coach.
You really think you're going to get any sort of indication from Frank Smith as to the severity of Tyreek's Hill injury? You have a lot more confidence in this than I do because I'm not expecting that for a millisecond. But the concern is right now, if he doesn't play, so you're missing your stud wide receiver, you're missing your Pro Bowl left tackle, you're missing your starting left guard. You may or may not have. Sorry? I couldn't hear you because we got bad internet issues here.
I said the show goes on. I apologize. It's raining in my neighborhood, and this is obviously going to be something where I have to get a direct connection.
No, the show goes on, but the show doesn't look the same. It's not like it's not the same show. It's not a 5-star show, whatever the top rating might be. You may or may not have Connor Williams. So that's the thing. And the New England defense is coming off actually what was overall a pretty good performance against Buffalo, even though the Bills were able to score a couple of touchdowns late to take that lead before the Patriots came back and won it. But it can be a tricky New England defense, even though they don't have Christian Gonzalez and they don't have who's the other one, Matthew Judon, who they had the first time the Dolphins played them.
I think with Jalen Waddle, with Robbie Chosen, with Cedric Wilson, with Braxton Berrios, with Chase Claypool, they should have enough, and maybe even Raycraft, who came back opening his 21-day window. They should have. Now, the question is, will they have enough to remain one of the top 5 offenses in the NFL? I believe that they have the capabilities because they've got a run game. They've got one of the best run games in the NFL, and they've got a quarterback who makes tremendously quick decisions. And a little bit more worried about the offensive line than I am or how dominant the offense with Tyreek. Mr. Cotton's going to be in there. You got 3 backups on potentially 3 backups on the left side of the offensive line. That's where it starts. You certainly know that Bill Belichick and the Patriots are going to be attacking that left side. Let's just hope that they can gain some stability there as opposed to figuring out, as opposed to struggling like they did against the Buffalo Bills and like they did against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I know that the Patriots do not have as forceful of a defensive line, especially without Matt Judon. But, when you're playing with 3 backups on your offensive line, things go a little bit haywire. And truthfully speaking, I know Mike McDaniel denied this, but you got to call the game differently. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But with the run game, with the weaponry they have, I'm sorry, but you should be able to make it with Jalen Waddle, Robbie Chosen, Chase Claypool, and Braxton. They're not chopped liver. They're not top liver.
I don't think they're chopped liver, but I don't think I'm gonna be the guy who's gonna poo-poo on your parade here. It's not a top 5 offense if you don't have Tyreek. Just like, yes, I'm gonna say it's not a top 5 offense if you don't have Tua. I think those are key pieces that you have to have in the lineup. And the run game, like it or not, a big part of the run game is the threat of Tyreek and everything opening up. And if you're not spreading out everything horizontally as you normally do, those long gains on end arounds and on jet sweeps and on shovel passes and all that, they're not there. I mean, it's not going to be. They got something going in the second half against the Eagles, but in the first half, there was a horror show what the running game was doing. And a part of it was some bad execution, some bad blocking up front, but also, again, to me, it's not the same.
Let's wait until Thursday. We see what Tyreek's status is. Maybe he becomes a 1 practice per week kind of performer, and then let's move forward. Let's not have this panic attack because Mr. MVP, Mr. All Pro is not there. There are tons of teams.
Who called him Mr. MVP?
What do you say?
Who called him Mr. MVP? That was an interesting.
Chris Perkins.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
You say it derisively. You're like Mr. MVP.
He is in the running for MVP, but right now, if he misses a game, that 2000 is going to be a little bit more challenging, isn't it? Let's get into the positive side of practice, which is the return of Jalen Ramsey to the base defense. Also, the return of Nick Needham, superstar. We talked to Nick Needham for the first time today. Nick talked about some of the challenges that he's had throughout this journey back, coming back from the Achilles injury. He's working with the base defense right now. He's kind of a hybrid player, safety / cornerback. Where he's utilized, how he's used. Maybe initially he's working on special teams. We shall see. I'm not even sure he's ready to be unleashed into the NFL at this present moment, because remember, this is just his 3rd week of practice or 4th week of practice.
4th week. I don't think he's certainly ready. He's not ready to be unleashed on a superstar level. The question is, does he get snaps on defense at all on Sunday? You think he does? Or you think
I don't know. I can honestly tell you, Anderson has had opportunities, games. The coach is going to have, whether they trust him, whether they have confidence in him. I don't think he's performed poorly, but you could leave Cater out on the boundary and put Nick on inside at the nickel position, And also, you could do the same thing. The question I have about Jalen Ramsey is he going to be on a snap count, limited basis, or coming back on a limited basis? Is he going to have a limited role? Let's say, for instance, he goes in and handles the nickel work in the nickel package. So, and Mike McDaniel is not trying to get ahead of himself. He wants to see how things go and assess how things play out in practice and look at how he performs in practice. And Big Fangio is going to give us an honest, candid review. So we'll have a little bit more tomorrow on the podcast once we talk to the defensive coordinator and be able to assess what they're seeing from Jalen Ramsey. But last week you won practice squad player of the week. So
yeah, except this is where I would say maybe let's not assume anything, even though I know there was a lot of positivity and this idea that he's coming back this week. He was limited in practice today.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm not buying the notion that Jalen Ramsey makes his first appearance of the season after being limited all week.
Okay.
So I think we need to see a full one of these days before we're actually going to assume that he's going to play.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to see a full on Xavier Howard's practice.
But he's played this year. Jalen Ramsey hasn't played all year. And this is his comeback game. I would be very surprised if he doesn't have a full practice at any point during the week. I would expect Brandon Jones to start at safety opposite Deshaun Elliott. Saw a little nugget today that there's not one player in the NFL this year who has been in the concussion protocol and played that Sunday. So that relates to Javon Holland, who is still in the concussion protocol, did not practice Wednesday. And that note applied to Brock Purdy, who apparently is in the concussion protocol for the 49ers. But Jalen Waddle was not one. Jalen, and last year there were a couple who did. I know Kenny Pickett last year played the Sunday after being in the protocol. This year, not one, according to what I saw. I believe it was Schefter who may have had that nugget. And Jalen Waddle did not play in week 3 after being in the protocol following the first New England game in week 2. So
interesting. We saw him in the locker room, but we're not allowed to talk to concussed players. So it is what it is. Proud of him for being honest and candid about symptoms and what he was feeling. I think that shows a sign of growth, progression for where the NFL is, because back in the day, they would have lied and lied and lied, just so that they can play. And
yeah,
I'm proud. It's a proud moment for the NFL, just for a player who got back in the game, cleared concussion protocol, to tell you the next day, yeah, I'm suffering from concussion symptoms. They never do that. So props to Javon Holland for being a big boy and stepping up and putting his health and safety first, which is something that's new for the NFL. But you're right. Brandon Jones is probably going to be back there. It's going to be the tandem of Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Jones. Can't really see anybody else entering that mix except for maybe Elijah Campbell. No,
I think Elijah Campbell. That ship has sailed. I think Elijah Campbell is looking at a season long of a whole lot of special teams work and some spot snaps on defense.
Wow.
And I was on the Elijah train as much as you were during training camp. And
okay, but let's get into it then. Since you want to do that, let's get into it. Is Brandon Jones good in coverage? Is Elijah
not his strength?
Is Deshaun Elliott good in coverage?
He's okay. It's interesting too, because you mentioned that, as my buddy from Detroit was actually checking him, who covers the Lions, was checking him on him this week, asking me how he's done, and I'm like,
he's fine.
Nothing. He's been fine. Nothing has really stood out either positively or negatively. He's made some plays, and it's like, you could tell me he's missed half the games and half the snaps, I'd be like, oh, okay. He's not really been that noticeable.
I don't have an issue, and safety's an offensive lineman. If I don't notice you, then that's a good thing.
Oh, no.
What?
Who are like the all-time safeties that you recall? Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, Bob Sanders. You notice those dudes. I mean,
Yeah.
well, I want to notice them. This is part of my thing with the aforementioned Javon Holland, where everybody of solid reputation and of some fame on the national level says he's a great safety. To me, again, maybe I'm like being very obtuse. Shawshank Redemption reference, but I to me the safeties that are like I don't want to put the pressure on Javon Holland to become an all timer, but at times it's almost the way people talk about him is, I mean, guys who completely impact the game and you feel him week after week after week.
I hear what you're saying, but we're not talking about the marquee safeties. We're talking about filler.
My point applied to Javon Holland. I wasn't talking about Deshaun Elliott.
But we're talking about Elliott, and I'm not noticing for glaringly bad plays.
No, correct. No, he's been solid. It's correct. He's been solid.
He's made a couple of plays, but some have to step, or maybe the architecture of the defense will have to change. Who knows at the present moment? Vic Fangio, maybe the inclusion of Jalen Ramsey and maybe the personnel that the Patriots have will incorporate them to play a different style in a different way. At this point, I don't know, but there's a lot of guys coming back. You need them coming. Jalen Ramsey coming back. Xavier Howard is practicing. He gets cleared to play. It seems like that growing injury past. Peter Coho's still continuing to practice with that next year. So you got a lot of options as opposed to just being the bro. My just went out.
Man, are you struggling with your internet? No, and then for those who are gonna ask, I'm not even asking Fangio about Cam Smith anymore. I mean,
he's on the injury report now.
No, and now he's on the injury report with an ankle injury. He was limited. So if he didn't play before when he was fine, he ain't playing when he's got an ankle injury. So I think
I'm still writing the Cam Smith piece this week. I'm still doing it.
Go for it. And I'm absolutely, but I'm almost starting to think that we're looking at least for this season, a Channing Tindall situation. Where I still said for this season, you're actually expecting him, barring a rash of injuries at cornerback, for him to get a whole lot of snaps on defense.
He is still young. Let's not change him. I'll do that. Season's still young. Let's the ability is there.
7/17. No, I agree. 7/17 of the way, so it's more than 40% of the way done.
Okay. When we get to the 60% mark, we can label him. But I think the player who's paying is better on special teams snap, and I'm not ready to put a Channing Tindall label on him.
But if you know, Omar, if you notice, I said for this year.
But
I'm not looking big picture. I'm looking in terms of his rookie season.
I don't want to do it. Can't do it. Won't do it.
No, I would be disappointed, but I'm also like starting to think that's just it's. Seeing him on an island at cornerback is not.
Got to pay his dues, man. He's just got to pay his dues. That's what he's doing.
No.
It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But right now, he's injured, but they don't really have a need for him, especially if you got Jalen Ramsey come back. This might be the last game, unless somebody suffers a serious injury, where he's going to have an opportunity to play and have a contributing role. And as I said from back in the Giants game, if you have your window to play him is now. Giants, Carolina, Eagles, even Eagles without Xavier Howard. It probably this is the last of that in that window, because I'm pretty confident that Jalen Ramsey plays Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
If you're not doing it now, you probably won't do it. But I personally do not believe it's ability. I believe it's just a young player who's paying his dues, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when he finally gets unleashed. I'm part of the free Cam Smith team. Free Cam Smith.
No, and I keep going back to the comments that Sam Madison made. It's attention to details.
Yes.
But and I'm like a lot of fans here. There's a curiosity factor. Like, you remember when all the fans wanted to see Chan in the lineup because there
Yeah,
was a curiosity factor, and they had great reason to be curious, as it turns out, because the dude is special. From based on what I saw in training camp, I think Cam Smith can be really, really good, and I'm like just very anxious to see him get a shot and show what he can do.
And he has not earned it yet. So, what for all those fans out there who are anxiously awaiting for Brandon Jones, here you go. And
That's what the Brandon Jones is.
yeah, I mean, you can't have new players play in the defense every week, but this is an opportunity for Brandon Jones to show what he has at safety, show if he can be a regular contributor. I still say they need a dime player. That's a little bit of an upgrade over Justin Bethel. No offense to Justin Bethel.
Perry Nickerson's that dude now.
No, he's the nickel. He's in the base. He's in the
Well,
base.
but when Ramsey comes back, he's not going to be the nickel.
Okay, I see what you're saying there. I see what you did there, man. As I said probably the day after the game, and continue to say, when you look at that performance against the Eagles, just look at it. Look at it. And look at that.
That's where we closed the book on the Eagles game. I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm just saying. Hear me out.
Okay,
Hear me out.
go ahead.
Hear me out. You know, when you look at that performance against the Eagles and you see what they did defensively without Jalen Ramsey, without Xavier Howard, without Javon Holland for large portions of the game, without David Long, if they can replicate that and give that to you every Sunday for the rest of the season, this team will win 12 games. Now, obviously, I'm saying that with Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead. Obviously, Isaiah Wynn's not coming back, so I got to recalibrate that a little bit. But what you mean?
Because if we're going to look at the positions on the offensive line, if you're going to lose one of your starters based on position value and the players that the Dolphins have, can we not agree that maybe this is the one spot where they could most afford an injury? Again, positional value and the player they have. Would you rather use one of your tackles for the season? Would you rather lose Connor Williams for the season? Would you rather lose Robert Hunt for the season?
Isaiah Wynn was playing well.
Yes, he was, without question. I'm not
going to disrespect that man like that.
I'm not suggesting anything otherwise. I'm saying if you're going to lose one of your five guys up front for most of the season, if not for the whole season, that's the guy. I mean, sorry. And then, again,
if you had a capable backup, and right now we still need to learn if they have a capable backup. So you have a capable backup in Kendall Lamb, but how deep can you go? How low can you go? How low can you go on that depth chart on offensive line?
Correct, and it again for those who are like, yeah, the offensive line is bad now because they got a whole bunch of backup. Well, again, how many teams in the NFL would be you can sustain losing three starters on the offensive line and there's not going to be a drop off? I'm sorry, that just doesn't happen. Let me go back to one quick thing about the Eagles game, because this, I don't know, this has been maybe a minor bit of a topic since the game, the officiating. As I indicated on social media in the mailbag, it's standard operating procedure for teams to file a report after every game of a list of calls that were made or not made that they would question, a polite way of saying it, to get clarification on why the hell did you call that or why the hell didn't you call that. And then the NFL sends back a report explaining their position, and teams are not allowed to comment on those, even though Jim Irsay, the Colts owner, kind of broke the rule yesterday by saying that the officials admitted they made mistakes at the end of that Cleveland-Indianapolis game. That's a no-no. Mike McDaniel did not go there. I'm going to guess that the officials may have told him, the league may have told him, yeah, we may have missed that face mask call on Cedric Wilson. Yeah, we may have missed that holding on David Long when he was blitzing up the middle and the lineman had his arm around his neck. But again, technically, Mike McDaniel's not supposed to reveal what the league told him. which is why he answered it. And I think somebody tried to bait him into a question of like, how do you deal with the frustration of that? And Mike McDaniel very appropriately said, because basically there's nothing you can do about it. So why is he going to pull out his hair,
He's moving on, as is this team. Your season goes sideways. You lose to the New England Patriots at home. Lock in without Tyreek, with Tyreek. Lock in, figure out a way with this offensive line. Lock in, figure out a way with Brandon Jones. This is part of what the NFL is. It's a survival league. And right now you're approaching the second half of the season, and backups will have to step up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The saga continues for the Miami Dolphins. Hopefully they continue to move in a positive direction after suffering that loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. But this is what happens to every NFL team. You think the 49ers, anybody shedding a tear for the 49ers playing without Deebo Samuels and Trent Williams? No, this is what happens.
Correct.
So,
and again, in terms of volume, I haven't looked around the league, and it does seem like the Dolphins have quite a large number of frontline players who have been dealing with injuries. I'm not convinced they're going to have, without having looked around the league, I'm not convinced that it's egregiously over the top compared to other teams. Like Omar mentions, that's part of doing business in the NFL.
Yep. And fortunately for Miami, they haven't lost anybody for the season yet.
Correct. That's
the important one. Mm-hmm. Well, we're wrapping up today's episode. We'll be back on Thursday where we tell you whether Tyreek Hill practiced or not.
Among other things, yeah.
Yeah, among other things. But they'll be here just to find that out. Again, we are not on audio. We're very close to a deal. When we have a deal, we will be back on audio. We appreciate all of your continued support. As you can see, we've got an ad right down there, which tells you where you can go get all of your Dolphins news for free. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to pay an entry fee to read our stories, alldolphins.com. And we will be back tomorrow.
But you do have to subscribe to this YouTube channel here, though.
Yeah, subscribe, keep our algorithm. When you hit the like, apparently that benefits us because it keeps our algorithm high and keeps us up there for people who are searching for Dolphins things. And the better we do, the better the production is. As you can see, we're stepping our game up. We got things coming. So we will see you tomorrow. And hopefully, if you in the comments, if you got any questions for coordinators, put them there and we will ask them or do our best to.
Oh, do our best. Until tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Oops. Took off the wrong background.